Had a little listen to his podcast, huh?
Dude, it's educational. And besides, I've been wanting to listen to this one.
Welcome to Idling in the Impala, a podcast by and for lovers of supernatural and the fanfiction it inspires. I'm Kasey.
I'm Sandra, and we've got another amazing creator on the podcast today, known as JLD71 on AO3. Jen has created hundreds of stories and digital pieces of art in the supernatural fanfic realm, with a focus on J2 and Wincest. She's been sharing her work since 2017. You can find her participating in as well as modding challenges and events. From betas to bangs, she does it all. So big thanks for coming onto the podcast and welcome, Jen.
Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you.
We are so excited because I've seen your name around
everywhere.
For a while. And so then put all the pieces together, and now to have you to speak to, I'm just like, it's one of those moments where you're like, you're in the fandom and you see names and you know them. Yeah. And it's just like, but now to actually get a chance to sit down and talk to you about a lot of things, supernatural fandom and fanfic. Cool. It's just really great. So yeah, thank you for taking the time with us today.
Well, thank you. I mean, you never know like if somebody's going to like your work or anything like that. So I'm actually very honored that you guys would even want to talk to me.
Yeah, well, absolutely. No, I think there's a lot to say too about people that have kind of like, and I mean, I know we'll get into it, but have been in the fandom for a long time. And Kasey and I might be a little more on like the newbie end. So to kind of like get to talk to people and talk about the changes, the direction, and just the community, I think that's built is really important too. And you seem like you do a lot for the community. So I kind of like, you know what? Let's see if she's good with it. And you were. And I'm just glad that you're here. So we just want to jump in and go, when exactly did you get into Supernatural?
I got into Supernatural the night it aired.
Okay. There's so many people that did that. I'm just so amazed. It's been so long. Did you know of it showing up like premiering, or was it like something you stumbled upon, or like what was the backstory to that? Who did you know? Did you know anybody related to it?
I watched Gilmore Girls, so I knew who Jared was.
Okay.
And I watched Dark Angel, and I also watched Smallville, so I knew again who Jensen was.
Okay.
And I really liked Jensen. So when I saw that they were premiering the show, and it was so funny, my husband looked at me, he's like, "That's so up your alley." And I'm like, "Oh, hell yeah." And, I sat down for the very first show, the night it premiered, and I was hooked, absolutely hooked. And I was just like, okay, when's next week coming? And when is the next episode? Because I really need to see what goes on next.
Okay.
Wow. That's where my love of Supernatural started from the very first day.
Back in 2005. So yeah. I don't know if Kasey wants to throw out their question now that they usually do.
You know what? I was real excited because Jen hadn't shown any kind of preference at all.
Started with Jared. I heard Jared came in first. Like,
No. I'm not done. Let me finish. Normally when we talk to people, because we chat a little bit before we start recording, and normally I can get a vibe for who their blorbo is in that space. But Jen was real good. She was real good. I was like, I got no idea. You write Wincest and J2. So I was like, I got no idea. But there it is. I already know the fucking answer.
You don't.
I do. Who is your blorbo, Jen? Are you a Dean blorbo kind of person or a Sam blorbo kind of person?
Okay, I'll just be honest, Dean.
Fucking told you, Sandra. I fucking told you, because you heard Jared first and went, "Oh, Jared," and I heard, "I love everything to do with Jensen," so I was fully in for Dean.
Okay.
Fucking for one brief shining week.
We have a table going on. So Kasey keeps track of our Dean blorbos and our Sam blorbos and all that stuff. So there'll probably be something posted in the Discord about where we're at with the table now. But it sounds like too, like you said, you noticed Jared, then you knew Jensen from a couple of other things. Now, because of what you write, I'm assuming you are of the ilk and of the mindset that there is no Dean without Sam, sort of a situation. I would assume that.
Correct.
Correct.
Yes. The show has always been the core factor of the brothers, and to me, it's you can't have one without the other. End of discussion for me. So
Yeah, no, I totally get that. You just bear with me a minute, because for one shining brief period of time, it wasn't double the Dean to Sam.
How
and
many
now it
is it
again.
now? How many is it?
8-15.
Okay.
Dean's favor.
Okay. Well, I've got a couple other Sam lovers I know that we're gonna get on. So we're gonna bump the numbers up. When it comes to that. So we're good. We're good. So you said you were hooked immediately. Like
Yes.
overall, like thoughts on the show, like maybe when it first started, to maybe like how it morphed or changed, or what was it that really kind of kept you coming back? I mean, obviously the boys are beautiful to look at, and
Absolutely
the chemistry with that Sam and Dean, Jared and Jensen have. I think, like you said, it's a big part of what makes it. But did you watch it all the way through? Because we have had people that have like stopped, started it back up again. But were you pretty much like, did you watch it season after season?
I have seen every single episode.
And there was no like break? You didn't like take some time in between?
Absolutely not. No,
Okay.
every night it aired. If I couldn't be there to physically watch it while it aired, I taped it or DVR'd it or whatever you want to call it, depending on the technology at the time.
Yeah, it was taped it for me.
Yeah,
it was taped
exactly. Yes. So then I have seen every single episode from start to finish, and I've done rewatches, and now I'm watching them here and there, because they're on Netflix. So I'll sit there in bed at night and I'll be like, okay, so what do I want to watch? I've got this new show, that new show. Okay. Supernatural, please.
Yeah. Yeah. We've done a couple like episodes about like comfort and different things like that, about how much comfort. And I know that for some people, it's like knowing what's going to happen in a story sometimes is what leans into rewatching, like, because you know what to expect, and there's a comfort in that. I find an inherent comfort just in this show in particular, something I haven't had with any other show. And I know a lot of that leans on, my slight obsession with Dean Winchester, but it's also this slight. We're just doing a podcast because I have a slight obsession about Dean Winchester.
Just a mild interest, fleeting, really.
But having that, I think, comfort, that character, that world to kind of like dip back into, like half the time, it's like I really have to think: do I want to invest more time in a new show, or do I want to go back to something that I know is going to give me what I want out of it? Sometimes not, sometimes upset me, but still give me what I want.
Yeah.
So
there's always been episodes that upset me. Like even from the very beginning, the whole backstory, it was just such a new concept. Nobody had ever done anything like that before. And that was just intriguing there in itself. And then just to see the dynamics of the brothers. And I will be honest, when I first started watching it, I hated Sam.
Okay.
I was just like, I couldn't stand him because he was the whiny little brother. And I'm an only child, so I couldn't wrap my mind around that dynamics. And then my husband, who has a big family, he's like, that's what siblings do to each other. And I'm like, really? What? Why? Like, why can't you guys all get along? I didn't have anybody to fight with. There was nobody to punch. There was nobody to bicker with. I got what I wanted, and I didn't have to share my stuff with anybody. So I couldn't handle that whole dynamic because it was so, I guess, real for me at some points. And it was just like, why can't Sam just do what Dean wants? Just make Dean's life and my life easy. Stop bickering with your brother, right?
Coming from an only child who was the youngest by a significant margin in my family. My cousins were like 8 and 10 years older than me, and we were the only kids in the family. I'm very much like, why does Dean have to be such a jackass though? Why can't he just let Sam do what he wants? Just let him go to college and live his fucking life, man. Yeah. What are all these expectations?
Yeah.
That's so cool though. That's so cool to be like in a similar family situation and identify so differently with the characters. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Each person picks up what they manifest or what they identify with. And to me, it was always just kind of like, Dean obviously, was written as the caregiver, and he was the caregiver. And I see where Sam rebelled against that. So finally, I started watching it with different eyes, and I was like, oh, okay, I get it now.
Mm-hmm.
Now I understand, Dean just wants to keep his family with him because he hasn't, in my mind, he doesn't get a lot. He's got the absent father. He's supposed to be the father figure to Sam. He's trying to be the brother figure as well. He's trying to keep his family together. And there's Sam, who just is so desperate for his own life.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, I get it now. I understand where Sam is coming from, but still, I'm always going to be a Dean's girl.
Yeah.
No matter what.
Yeah.
That's totally, I rage, but I get it. That's totally fine.
Well, no, I think too, like you were saying, everybody brings their own, you just connect to each character. And sometimes it fluctuates, right? Like it'll flip. Like I know there's sometimes when I'm like looking at Dean going, why? Why did you do that? That was a bad idea. And then, but then it goes back to like, Sam. And I know there has to be that inherent drama to keep you going, or else, it wouldn't have been on for 15 years. So I think it does like that connection that they have, that relationship. There's going to be this back and forth, or I don't think anybody would have stuck around, for really a long time to really dig into like, why do they do what they do? And why do they make the sacrifices that they do for each
exactly.
other?
And that's a lot of it. I mean, anybody who has a family, I should back this up by saying anybody who loves their family, because you can have family that you just don't love.
Mm-hmm.
But anybody who has family understands the fact of sacrificing for them.
Mm-hmm.
And one is always sacrificing for the other, just because, their family, they love each other. So I kind of got that. And I was just like, that's so intriguing to me. And then you had the monsters and the lore and everything. They never got to stay in one place. So there was always each episode was always a different location, and they were always fighting something different. And it was just so intriguing to watch that unfold on a weekly basis. And it was it just kind of took off. And, my husband would come home and I'd be like, shh, you can't talk to me right now. And he's like, but it's taped. And I'm like, shut up. I have to go watch it right now.
Yeah. Shh, shh, shh. The people are talking. Shh.
Exactly.
Wait.
Yeah.
Would he wait for like, when you would quote unquote tape it, would you fast forward through commercials, or would you like let him talk?
Absolutely.
Okay. So I was going to say,
I can't stand commercials. They're like the bane of my existence, even now with any kind of TV show. And if you try to talk to me while I'm trying to watch something, I'll be just like, you need to like sit there and shut up before I duct tape your mouth shut. So.
I swear I can't remember the last time I saw an advert or a commercial for anything.
In terms of, you were talking about monsters and stuff, were there any shows before this that kind of had the same vibe for you that you wanted, that kind of like made you lean into? Like, do you like horror? Do you like that kind of stuff?
Oh my God, yes. I love horror.
Okay.
And anything that's twisted. I loved Buffy the Vampire Slayer, Firefly comes to mind. There's a couple that, like that just come to mind. I'm trying to think, like Angel. Those are the top couple. Charmed, I love.
Okay, so a lot of like witchy vampire. So it kind of like fell into place. Like, oh, this is like my world, like kind of stuff. Yeah,
absolutely, yes.
Okay, I've heard a lot of people, and I've asked other people about this too, because I watched Buffy, I think when it was on Netflix. I didn't watch it like when it first aired and stuff, but I did catch up on it. I think like in the early, maybe mid 2000s, late 2000s or whatever. It might have been on Hulu. I can't remember. It was one of those services. But I remember really liking it. And I know a lot of people do sort of like parallel Buffy and Dean in terms of those characters. Do you notice that? Have you kind of like gotten that sort of similar?
No.
Okay.
No, I never picked up on that.
Okay.
I mean, I can see the similarities now that you mention it. She was headstrong, the leader. And, to me, that's what Dean is. He's headstrong. He's a leader. And then kind of people like kind of gravitated towards Buffy, and people kind of gravitate towards Dean in a way.
Jen, what are some other favorite characters of yours from Supernatural? Because we have 15 years of them. So aside from Sam and Dean, what are some of your like favorite characters?
I have to say Bobby. I loved him.
Yes.
He was their surrogate father. He offered them an aspect that they were missing from their life. And he clearly loved the boys, and they clearly loved him back. I love Charlie, she was so kick-ass.
Yes.
I mean, whenever they had Rufus on, it was just hysterical, especially with him and Bobby. It was just absolutely fantastic. I'm trying to think of who else. I mean, they had so many people. I did like Benny. But that was an interesting dynamic there at one point too, because he was kind of like the go-between that was kind of pulling the brothers apart. And I was kind of like, okay, you need to go away now because now you're pulling the boys apart. And I can't have that. So
Well, did you think the same of Amelia in that season?
Oh my God, I hated her.
Yes.
I hated that. That was, I'm sorry. I know some people love that storyline. I just thought it was a silly storyline. Like, okay, Sam hits a dog. And yes, he does the right thing. He takes it to a vet, but then like, she's just a complete asshole. I'm just like, what the fuck? Like, really? This is who Sam stays with? It made no sense.
We've had a couple people on because we've talked about like Amelia, and I think a couple people have just glommed onto the whole like the trauma aspect of it too. Like, they both came from like traumatic situations, so that was kind of at the base. Like, that's probably what just inherently, pulled them towards each other. Whether or not it was the best thing, I don't know, but they definitely. It was so, that season in particular was so very interesting because of how very blatantly like romantic triangle they were making these situations out to be, that even my husband on rewatches is like, really? Yes. See what they're doing. But so it's really interesting how, like, there's only certain people that I sort of feel like too. I've talked about like it's sort of like a tier system. I think Dean adheres to this much more than Sam does. And that's one of the things that kind of sometimes irks me about Dean, is that you've got to be at a certain level in order to merit, like Kevin. For some reason, I get so hung up on Kevin because I feel like he did so much for them, and really kind of at the end, it's like it didn't work out the way it should have. And I kind of felt like Dean could make him expendable in a way, that maybe Sam would never be expendable. And I kind of feel like there's that sort of tier system that even both boys, but probably I think Dean maybe a little bit more kind of goes, has that in him for a lot of reasons, that we know him growing up and knowing it's always got to be Sammy. You've got to protect Sammy, that kind of thing. Yeah, I kind of feel like throwing those two in there, Benny and Amelia, it was interesting, but also like, no, we just want the boys together. And they got their act together midway through that season in particular. I felt like the second half was much stronger than the first half. I kind of felt when they finally get them back together. I hate the seasons where they're arguing for like most of like, I love some of those seasons, but I also hate them because I'm like, no, they're stronger together, even though they don't think
exactly.
So.
Yes.
And I didn't know if there were any seasons in particular, like maybe plot line or whatever, that kind of you really love, and then maybe like you're like, I don't like what they did, that way, or maybe it was just too much plot. We've talked about that. Sometimes there's too much plot.
The Leviathan plot, I couldn't stand. I just. Well, one, because, what happens with Bobby, and I'm just like, excuse me. How could you do that to the boys, and how could you take Bobby away? But it was just so, to me, it was just kind of over the top. It was like, you guys couldn't figure out a couple of monsters for them to fight because there's all kinds of different monsters. So you created these Leviathan. And that whole season was about them trying to take out the Leviathan. And it was like, what the fuck am I watching?
Yeah, that was a heavy. I feel like that was one of those seasons where I really thought they could do a lot better with the storyline, but there was too much going on, and that was the one season where they kept taking everything away from them. I think Bobby was finally like one of the last straws, and then they were kind of like trying to put things back in to kind of like make up for that loss, I feel like. And yeah, that was a ride, man. That was a tough season. I think for Kasey, fair to say, was it 6-2 for us? 6 and 7?
6 there's too many plots in 6.
Yeah.
There's like 3 different big bad plots it's too many.
Yeah, and it's funny because sometimes the show is just so spot on, and then there are times where it was just kind of like, did you guys lose the thread from the last script that you just wrote to this script? And you know, there were things where I felt that they really could have been stronger on. Like, Sam is supposed to have powers, and then suddenly they just kind of disappear, and like nobody ever talks about them again. What about these visions? Like, what happened to those? It was like they could have done so much more with that. You know, and it was just kind of like, oh yeah, he has powers for the first 3 to 4 seasons, and then all of a sudden, boom, they're gone.
Yep.
What happened? Yep. You know?
Yeah. Like the whole Demon Dean, but then it was like 3 episodes. And we were like, oh my fuck God, you.
They could have done so much with that. It would have been so interesting to see him as a demon.
And then like, instead of they gave us 3 fucking episodes of Demon Dean, but then they hold out the mark of Cain. Oh, I'm so evil and I'm so bad. For like a fucking season and a half, and then pulled the same goddamn trick with Michael Dean, where it's like, oh no, he's been possessed. Oh no, but for like 2 minutes.
Yeah. Exactly. There were so many plot things that they brought in, and it was kind of like, we brought this in, but we don't know what to do with it. So now we're going to drop it and pray that nobody remembers it. And it was kind of like, we're not stupid.
They didn't know what fandom they were dealing with when they were throwing that kind of stuff around. So it's like, I'm always amazed by some of the writing too of like later seasons that don't adhere to even like the characters and like, you know, motivation and different things like that kind of get forgotten. And I get it. You know, you're going through a lot of series, a lot of years, but still, like, all you need is just like a consultant, you know, like one of like the fan consultants. Like, you don't even, if you don't go on like the wikis that have been created for you just to double check on stuff. But a lot of retconning that I think. So, I mean, all that to say, I know there's a lot of stuff that we're like, but again, like coming back to it at the very base of it. I mean, obviously it's still like, I know for me and Kasey, I think I can speak for you. It's the boys' relationship that kind of like keeps you sticking around to see them through all of that.
Yeah, because it's just it's interesting because like I said, it's a dynamic that needed to be explored. And there's so much there. There was so much baggage between the boys to begin with that they dealt with that they didn't even want to talk about. Sometimes they didn't get to unpack their baggage, and they were afraid to even say anything because they were afraid that if they said something, how they were even feeling, they were going to hurt the other one, and the other one was going to walk out. And that happened a couple of times. We had it where Sam walked out on Dean. And that was like, to me, that was heartbreaking. It was like, how can you leave Dean? Go back to Dean. What are you doing?
You get your ass back in that car, son, and you go fix this. Yeah,
exactly. I get it. You know, and you know, you get it. You understand. It was like, you know, Sam didn't always have all the backstory of everything that was going on. And that wasn't his fault. Things were kept from him by Dean, by John. And then, you know, he kind of sort of finds out things secondhand. And then it's kind of like the light bulb goes off in his head. And he's like, oh, okay, that's why you did what you did. Doesn't make it right. But now I understand you did what you did. Okay, so now I'm going to come back to you. And it was like, oh, thank God. The boys have been reunited, and okay, move on. Like, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I've talked, I mean, I sort of spilled the beans about like what you write. But what are like some pairings and ships that you really like in terms of fan fiction?
As far as with Sam and Dean, it's always going to be Sam and Dean for me. And it's always Endgame. And then, you know, when I write, you know, real person fiction, it's always Jensen and Jared. They may not always be together at the beginning. They may break up here and there, but to me, it's always Endgame with the two of them ending up together. Whether it's, like I said, whether it's Sam and Dean or Jensen and Jared.
When did you get into fan fiction? Was it supernatural? Was it prior? Like, had you gotten into fan fiction before the show?
I had discovered it. There was a show, Hemlock Grove,
Okay.
And I was watching it and I was kind of like, oh, this is really interesting. And I started to Google it. And then all of a sudden I came across LiveJournal and I had never heard about that before.
Mm-hmm.
And I started to do a deep dive into it. So I started reading Hemlock Grove fan fiction. I was like, oh, this is really cool. And then all of a sudden it just kind of exploded and I discovered the Supernatural LiveJournal pages. And I was like, oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
And at first, when I was watching the show, as much as I loved the boys, I never saw the underlying
possibility, right? Like, yeah,
exactly the possibility. I never watched it like that in the very beginning. But then all of a sudden I was reading somebody's fiction. And I remember reaching out to her and I said, I never thought of Dean as being with another man. And the story wasn't Dean. It wasn't Sam and Dean together. It was Dean with somebody else. And I said, I never saw that possibility. And it just became very interesting. And at first I was like, oh, no, I don't think I can do this. I don't think I can do this. Because my very first couple of stories, it was all platonic. And then all of a sudden I was just like, wait a second. This is rather interesting. Let me go down this road and see how comfortable I am with this. And I was like, okay, I'm very comfortable with it. And there it was. Wincest became my obsession. So I was like,
It's real easy to get comfortable over here, isn't it? You're like, I'll just take a look. Holy shit, it's great here. I love what you've done with the place.
Exactly. I'm like, you know what? I'm just gonna hit this rest area over here. And then, the rest area became my landing pad and I've never left it. So,
yeah.
So had you been watching Supernatural for a while then before you stumbled onto Supernatural fan fiction? Is that?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
So
I didn't discover fan fiction until 2017, basically. That's when I really discovered it.
Okay. So
I had no idea that it even existed.
So even though in the show they were doing sort of like that meta aspect of it in like season 4, you didn't. That's so interesting. Wow.
Because I looked at it through different eyes. I was just like, okay, they're just brothers, and okay, so I see where some people would be like, okay, they bicker like a married couple, and then they think that they are a couple, and I'm like, okay, that's really funny because he's always like, why does everybody think that we're a couple? And it's like, hello, now it's like, okay, now I get it. But they did lead into that in the series.
Right.
The writing led into that. So I was like, okay. But at first I never picked up on it because that's not the eyes that I was watching it with. And then all of a sudden it was like, oh.
It is interesting
okay.
once you get more info, on it and about it, because I think again, like I sped through it, like in 2019, I started watching it. I was probably like, I don't know, season 6 or 7 or 8 in when I started looking for stuff online and going, oh, there's probably fan fiction about these guys. And I was like, oh yeah, there's fan. And then I was like, what? And then, there's so much stuff about them. So fan fiction. So you had not even read like Gen fiction on them or anything?
No.
Okay.
No.
Wow.
No, it wasn't until, like I said, I started doing the deep dive on Hemlock Grove.
Okay.
Because I found those characters very interesting. And I started reading that fan fiction. And then all of a sudden I just kind of jumped in with both feet. And I found the Gen aspect of Supernatural. And I went with that. And I started writing stuff like that. And then all of a sudden there was just kind of like a bang. And I think it might have been the Supernatural Big Bang, J2 Big Bang, or something to that effect. And I had seen it advertised on LiveJournal, and I was like, "What the hell is this? Let me go look at it." And I was just kind of like, "Oh, I don't know if I can do this." It was just kind of like, "Do I really want to take a chance?" And there was a piece of art there that caught my eye. And I was just like, okay, this is this really cool art. Maybe I can come up with something.
Mm.
And I claimed it, and I was like, oh, please, whatever God is listening to me, please, please, please let me do justice to this art. And it just kind of snowballed from there. And it was, let me see, I'm trying to find it now. Oh, Cracked and Broken.
Okay.
Okay.
And
so that was your first bang that you'd written, like after you'd claimed an art. So it was a reverse bang?
yes, it was a
Okay.
reverse band.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that was, I mean, I had done other, like, small things.
Mhm.
But this was the first one that I really decided to take a chance on.
Okay.
And it just kind of snowballed from there. And it's kind of a blending of Jensen and Jared and Sam and Dean,
Okay.
Hmm.
Okay.
where Jensen is the type Cracked and Broken. Jensen is cracked and broken, and he thinks that Jared and he are Sam and Dean.
Oh. Okay. Okay.
So that's where it started from.
Okay.
Yeah. So it was the supernatural reverse bang.
Okay.
And like I said, I claimed somebody's art, and I had absolutely no freaking clue what I was doing. I will totally be honest. And
Seems
I
a
was
theme.
just like,
That's a theme. With
yeah.
things.
We never know what we're doing. It's all right.
No, I'm just like, I'm going to wing it, and then, here I go.
Mhm.
And that's where I kind of like jumped into it with both feet, and it just kind of snowballed from there, because a lot of the other ones were, general fiction. There was nothing between the brothers.
Mhm.
And I was up on one of the live journal communities where they put out daily prompts that if something catches your eye, you can write for that prompt. And that's what I started doing
Okay.
to get my feet wet and back into writing, because I hadn't been writing for a while.
Okay.
And I was just like, all right, let me just kind of start getting my skills honed again. And it just kind of went from there and just snowballed. So
Wow. Okay.
Cool.
Yeah, because
That's awesome.
one of the questions I was going to ask was like your previous, like your writing before writing Supernatural. So when were you writing? Did you write fanfic? And then it sounds like you had a break between whatever it was when you've been writing, and then when you kind of picked up the pen again and started with Supernatural.
My background is actually in journalism and communication. So I was actually, that's what I went to school for. That is what my degrees are in.
Okay.
And I was an editor and writer for a couple of different school newspapers, college newspapers.
Okay.
And I also branched off into photography when I was there as well.
Awesome.
So that's what it started off as.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I want my dream was I was going to be a writer as far as writing for newspaper, and that just didn't pan out. And we all know what's happening with newspapers over the years. They're closing down, and unfortunately, a lot of the newspapers that existed back then don't even exist anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And I ended up in the field of accounting. And then, I got married and had my kids. And then all of a sudden, like I said, I found this whole community, and I was just kind of like, oh, let me get back into the writing aspect of what I used to do, what I love. And it's kind of snowballed from there. So every day I'm writing something, and my husband will look over at me and he's like, what are you doing? I'm like, you don't want to know. Just
okay.
leave me alone.
I'm having a thought. Just leave it where it is, babe.
What's the writing process like for you? Because you said you write every day. So I mean, is it just because it has to kind of come out, you jot it down? Because we've had some people come on there, like, they have a notebook, or they put something down on their phone, or like, do you set yourself up with like sort of like a schedule of writing time, or how does that work for you?
I get up every morning. I get up early every morning so that I can have at least an hour to write.
Wow. Okay.
Wow.
Yeah. And then I have my phone with me all the time, and I have a notebook with me. So if something comes up, I can just jot down my thoughts, my notes, so that I don't forget what I've been thinking about 5 minutes ago.
Uh-huh.
I go off and do something else and then come back and I'd be like, oh yeah, and let me just add to that. And like my notebook, I'm sitting here with it right now. It's like it's halfway filled with notes and already written stories that I have to now, type out on Google Docs because I was sitting somewhere that I didn't have access to internet.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's what it starts off like. That's my writing process. I get up every morning, and then when I'm at work, I take a lunch, but my lunch is my writing.
Oh,
so
okay.
I'll be sitting at my desk writing, and then I'll end the day, close off, doing whatever I do, and then go home and I write some more.
Okay.
So that's what I do.
Okay.
Wow.
Is
so
there,
envious.
Yeah, because it sounds like, because some people talk about too, like certain times of the day are better for them for writing. Do you have a preference if you had to pick, like whether it's early in the morning or maybe like, because I know I can go both ways, but it really does depend. Like sometimes it's usually at the end of the night, like when I'm in my bed with my laptop, it's kind of like when I'll finally like, okay, I'm ready to try to write. It doesn't happen every night. And I feel like it's very impressive that you give yourself that, that time, but it sounds like it works for you in a lot of ways too. But do you prefer if you had to pick like morning or nighttime?
I think morning because I'm more centered in the morning because nobody is up, nobody is around. Whereas at night I still have my responsibilities. I have a family to take care of. So that's what I do. On LiveJournal, it's still up there. There is a community where you can pledge how many words you're going to write per day. And I always pledge 300. And that is always my goal is 300 to write 300 words a day. It's always a lot more than that. But I like to keep to that set schedule so that I know that I'm writing so that I don't sit there and think to myself, oh, tomorrow I can write, tomorrow I can write, tomorrow I can write, and the days pass by. I like to go on there. It makes me hold myself accountable.
Gotcha.
So that I'm writing. I'm always putting something down, whether, like I said, it's on paper or 9 times out of 10 Google Docs. But for me, it's writing during the morning. But then again, if I've had enough of everybody's crap at home, I'll be like, peace out, bitches. And I go up.
Yeah.
But I have to ask, where in the schedule do you find time to glare at a blank Google Doc going, fuck you, I hate you. Why won't this happen? Or far more, as happens to me far more now. I tend to, there's less blank Google Doc staring. There's more 3/4 of a fic finished. And I'm going, I don't know what you want from me. Why are you like this? Would you, like, where does that fit in? What do you do? Do you just write through the roadblocks? What the fuck?
Yes, you have to. At least for me, I have to. Sometimes I'll hit a roadblock with one story that I'm writing, and then all of a sudden I'll go back to something that I hadn't picked up for in a while, and I'll start writing on it. I just actually signed up for the Whip Big Bang, so that I have a whip sitting out there that I haven't touched in years because I have to get into that headspace. It's a J2 fic, and it's part 7 that I'm working on. And Jared is just a complete asshole in this series. I'm just going to say it out loud. He's just a complete asshole in this fic to Jensen, but it's the way he is. It's the way his life has been. But trying to get into that headspace, it's very difficult because that's not really who Jared is in real life.
Yeah.
He's a sweet, lovable guy. So to have him play the asshole in a fic, it's like, oh, I don't know. But people have loved this fic. And they're always like, when are you going to write more? When are you going to write more? When are you going to write more? And it's just kind of like, okay, now I've pledged that I'm going to do this so that I have to write the minimum to reach being able to be part of this bang. So I picked that up after I just finished writing my Big Bang, my J2 Big Bang. So it was kind of like, okay, so now what am I going to do?
Yeah.
What am I going to write now?
So that's, I'm wrapping my head around it.
That's a lot. That is a lot. I don't know. I don't think I'd get anything done if I didn't like allow myself glaring and sulking time. I'm in awe of that.
what
That's
else?
so cool.
So what other like writing tips? Because you said like bouncing like maybe to another thing that you haven't done. Do you sometimes just free write? Like do you like what other things do you do, or is it really just kind of like focused on an idea? And what do you consider writing? Does writing have to necessarily be putting like pen to paper or typing, or is it just like researching, plotting,
No, that's not
different
writing.
things like
No.
that? It is though.
No.
It is.
No,
All of it is writing. I believe all of it is writing.
No, that's totally fine, and I respect your belief there. But my brain is like, no, you have to be in Google Doc with commas and shit writing.
So
like bullet points is not for me.
Is that also for you, Jen, or do you find that it's a combination?
Yes, that's my mindset. Is that when I'm writing, I'm actually putting words down on either paper or in Google Docs. I mean, yeah. So that's how I look at it, and everybody is different, and I respect that. There are times when I'm writing and I have to stop and I have to research something because I want to make sure that I'm accurate. And I know people put out there like, inaccurate, narrator is unreliable, and that's fine. There are times when I have made things up in my stories because it's a made up world and it doesn't have to adhere to, say, quote unquote logic. But yeah, so for me, it's typing out those words. And there are times when I glare at that Google Docs and I'm like, motherfucker, where are you going? Where is the next word coming from? And it's just kind of like, okay, maybe I have to take a step back. And like, I've been on Insta. I'll see something that strikes a chord in me. And all of a sudden, the next thing I know, it's like, I'm writing for a meme that I just saw. And it's, and it's either Sam and Dean or it's Jensen and Jared. And, that's just where it comes from, or somebody will say something to me and it just kind of sparks that idea. And I'm just like, hey, wait a second. That's a really good idea for a short story. So it's not necessarily, a big bang or, hundreds of pages that I'm writing. Sometimes they're just short stories that just get sparked by something that catches my interest. And I'm like, oh, that's really a really good idea. Like last night I was watching a show and in an episode, something happened and I was like, oh, that's a really good idea for a J2 fic. So there I was. I'm like, peace out, bitches. I'm going to bed. And I went upstairs and, pen to paper, because there I am with my notebook, writing down all my thoughts about this. This will be a really good fic when I finally have time to write this down, because if I don't write down that idea now, I'm going to completely forget about it. And the next week I'll be like, what the fuck was I thinking?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm a huge fan of, I have a lot of Google Docs that just have like a few bullet points in them where I was just like, I just need to write down the basis of this, and I will come back to it and flesh it out. But this is the idea I have immediately. So
same. I have a Google Doc that's 2 Google Docs. So one is Sam and Dean prompts, and then the other one are J2 prompts. So and I'm like, okay, so this could be a really cool idea when I finish something else. And then I go back to it.
I also have the list. Yes. And people are like, hey, have you thought about this? And you're like, well, just let me go on a hiking expedition to find the end of this motherfucker, and I'll put it on the list, and we will get there. Do you, since we seem to kind of share the whole writing is only writing if you're literally pen to paper, do you like have to write sort of in order almost, or can you jump around between scenes as you're writing, or does it have to be and then?
I jump around from scene to scene because I'll finish something and then I'll be like, oh, but he says this, but that doesn't go in this paragraph, but it can come later on.
Oh,
and there was a story that I was writing for, I think it was either one of my Dean Winchester Big Bangs. It might have been. And I had one complete thought about something, and then that motherfucker Dean just derailed it. And I was like, you fucking asshole.
All right.
And I was like, okay, I have to write this out now. And now how the hell am I going to marry these two ideas together?
Twin flames. We got twin flames right here, ladies.
Yeah. No, I have in my big whip, which all of our listeners, if you listen to this podcast, you're fucking aware of the albatross that is Junkies. I have now had to replot that out for the 3rd time because I plotted it out and Dean just went, oh no, just completely took me off road. So I was like, all right, fine. I went back to Google Maps and I plotted out a new roadmap, and all my bullet points were in a line, and it was all fucking great. And then we got to that, and Sam just went, well, no. And now I'm like,
yeah, very rarely for me, I don't outline. I'll be honest.
Okay.
I just start writing. It's like, okay, so this is my thought. And then all of a sudden if I start to see it happening in my mind, that's how I write my stories. There have been times when I have put an outline and I have tried to stick to it, but I find that that doesn't really work as well for me as it does for other people. And like I said, each person does something completely different, and whatever works for you works for you. Yeah. I mean, I'll have like bullet points, like at one of the fics that I'm working on now, like I have a couple of bullet points, like this is what you want to make sure that you include in this, but it doesn't necessarily have to adhere to how the story is going to work out for me. And like I said, with that one with Gene, I was like, that's not how this was going to happen.
Yeah.
And he was like, fuck you, this is how it's happening. And I was just like, okay.
I used to, when I wrote one-shots, fucking way back when I didn't hate my life, when I wrote one-shots, I wouldn't have a plot. I just have, these are the things that I want to include. So it's like, I want like this sex scene, or I want this dialogue. And I would just go through them, and like they would fit in and it would be fine. And then I started writing, and Junkie started out like that. Junkie, I was just like, oh, this and this and this. But now it's become such a behemoth. And now I can see the end, but I don't know how the fuck we're going to get there. So now I have to sit and think, what is going to happen? Where am I going? Like, what are my stops along the road? And then I have it all planned out. I've printed out the map. It's on the passenger seat. Everyone's fucking strapped in. We're ready to go. And then one of them will just yank the wheel and go, lol, no. And I'm like, but my maps. I printed it.
I know.
Lads? What the fuck, lads?
It's so funny how that happens. And I came across something the other day, and I was talking with somebody, and by talking, I mean we were messaging each other. And I was like, I said, I need to make a writing bucket list, because there are things that I haven't written, like the one that I'm turning in for my, that I turned in for my big bang. I had never written that style before. And I had never written a vampire story before. And I wrote that. And, I've written meet cutes, but I've never written enemies to lovers. I've never written fake dating. There's several things. Like somebody reached out to me and there was like, hey, do you have a fic where one of the boys is a mermaid? And I'm like, no, I don't. Why don't I? So it's all kind of that stuff now. It's like, oh crap, now I'm going to open myself up to something else, and I'm going to have a bucket list. And I'm going to be like, shit, why am I not writing this? And why am I not writing that? And I'm just like, fuck my life, because now all I want to do is write. And, I can't just write 24/7, but I really, really want to. But real life interferes with all of that, and that kind of sucks. But
yeah. It seems like I know for a lot of us, even though we moan about how difficult it is, it is a happy place, to get there. Yes. You said you don't outline, but do you usually have the ending in mind, or sometimes you not even have the ending in mind?
I usually have the ending in mind. But then again, it doesn't always go to plan. And something else happens, and I'm just quite like, oh, that was really unexpected. But you know what? Yeah. That's even better than what I had thought in the back of my mind. My whole thing that I always go into it is, okay, it's always going to be either about the boys when I'm writing Wincest, or it's going to be J2, with Jared and Jensen. And no matter what happens, it's always going to be endgame for me with those groupings.
So is it a happily ever after that you typically always try to go for?
I try to. It doesn't always work. Okay. For the most part, yes. Okay. I don't really think I have any fics where it's an unhappy ending, to tell you honestly. And I know that it's funny because my stories are filled with a lot of angst. Right. And it's funny because somebody was like, you write a lot of angsty stories. And I'm like, well, if you only knew the backstory of my life, like, okay.
I have experienced a lot of angst, and by God, other people are going to deal with it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the drama and the angst is is in there in the stories, but I try my best to give them a happy ending, because at the end of the day, 9 times out of 10, that's really, really what people want when they're reading a story, is they want it to have a happy ending. Because what's the point in having the life you lead, and then all of a sudden it's like you're reading this really great story, and then motherfucker, that bitch broke them up.
Yeah. Yeah. Again, if I didn't have that compulsion, Junkies would have ended fucking 4 installments ago, and we would have all been sad.
Yeah.
And we would have all been just like, oh, that's tragic. And I would have been like, yes, it is. Anyway, but no. Here we are.
Because we've had that question kind of come up, like, why do you write? And, if you do put them through a lot of angst, like, what's your reasoning behind it, kind of a situation. And I know some people do talk about it kind of like, processing whatever, they go through the characters in some way, but then still wanting to try to give them some sort of happy, even if it can't be like happily ever after, even if it's just like a happy for now sort of situation. Or, with one shots, you kind of like, if you can stick to it, you're kind of given that it's just that one scene. It's just that one moment. It's just that one snapshot. It's great when people could do that. Sometimes it gets really difficult to kind of stick to doing that, where you kind of, I think if you get into the backstory again, that kind of like throws you off. Well, why are they doing this? What's happening here? Sometimes it's just just write the scene. Yeah. Just write the scene. Yeah. But it's very hard to do. It's very hard to do. You do like a lot of fanfic tropes. So which ones do you tend to gravitate towards that maybe you didn't need to put them on your bucket list, that either like you like to read or you'd like to write, but you didn't need to put them down on your bucket list yet because you've written enough of them. Those kinds of tropes.
I think if anybody really looks at what I have written, they will realize that I absolutely love Alpha and Omega.
Yes, I did notice there was a trend there.
And again, that was something else. I was like, when I first got into it, I was like, what the fuck? Like, really? This is impossible. Come on, right? I was just like, okay, wait a second. Oh, I see the appeal in that now.
Okay.
And it's just something that I gravitate towards. And there were times when I'm like, you stupid bitch, do not write another ABO. But worked so well with the storyline. And I'm like, but not every story that you write could or should be ABO. And I'm like, but no. My muse is like, but come on, write it. You want to. And I'm like, but not every story needs to be with, Alpha Dean, or actually Alpha Sam and Omega Dean, and it doesn't need to always be that way, but it tends to be.
But what if it was though? I am not helpful. me and your muse are in cahoots going, but what if it was though?
I know.
So do you do the same thing with Jared and Jensen in terms of like the roles that they play, or do you switch it?
In the beginning, I did write Alpha Jensen with Omega Jared, and I may have written a couple where there was Alpha Dean and Omega Sam, but my preference is actually Omega Dean with Alpha Sam and Omega Jensen with Alpha Jared.
Okay.
That's just my preference.
Right.
That's what I prefer to read for myself, my enjoyment, and that's what I prefer to write.
Okay.
It's just kind of what I gravitate towards. It's to me, it feels natural.
Right.
And that's kind of what I go with.
Yeah. I always find that an interesting question to ask when people do say that they write that, because it's like everybody's got a little bit of a different idea and a take on like, that's
unfortunately, it's usually such a difficult question to answer, because you're like, oh, it hits different buttons depending on which way you do it. And like who you put in Alpha and Omega, or who you put on the top and the bottom, and it's it's difficult. Yeah, no, I totally get it.
If I'm writing, like if I'm participating in a band where I have claimed somebody's prompt or art, I do my best to give them what they have requested. So if they prefer that it is bottom Sam or bottom Jared, I will do that for them, because, they're requesting that, and I have no problem with that because I'm the one claiming that. And if I had an issue with it, then I shouldn't have claimed that, that prompt or their art. So even though it's not something that I typically write anymore, if I was to participate in something like that going forward, I could still do it. But for me, again, I would rather, when I'm writing or reading, I always want Sam or Jared to be the top with Dean or Jensen as the bottom.
But again, he's just so big, isn't it, though? It's just so...
It's great.
It's just a lot of him, you know? It's But see that is the thing. That's what I mean. When like I've switched and changed. I don't like with a gun to my head, you couldn't make me pick a preference. And there's just something really, really nice about putting all that big on the bottom, at the bottom, like the omega, however you want. And there's so much, and the big and the power, and you're like, but it's all mine. It bends to my will. It's just, no. Well, on it, swear to God, with a gun to my head, I could not pick a permanent position for those two as Jared and well, no, that's not true. I have very firm thoughts about Jared and Jensen, but Sam and Dean, with a gun to my head, I couldn't.
See, and for me, I'm just like, if somebody put a gun to my head, I'd be like, okay, well, Sam is top, Dean is bottom, Jared is top, Dean, Jensen is bottom. So that's just in my mind. That's how I write. I
think that's so cool, though. That's so cool to just be like, again, I've said this so many times in so many recent episodes. We're all looking at the same source material and walking away with so much different thoughts and opinions. And, even something like that, you're like, no, I see it this way. This is how it makes sense to me. That's so cool. I love that.
Yeah. But then again, like I said, I mean, I've written it in the past and I could write it in the future. And when I beta for somebody, it doesn't matter to me what pairing they're writing. It doesn't matter to me who tops and who bottoms. So, I can put my preferences away, and I can help that person out because that's their writing, and they're not writing it for me. They're writing it because that's what they feel is comfortable for them. And that's fine. Yep. That's fine with me.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, on the subject of beta, we were able to get in touch with you because of our friend Runaway Dreamer, who told us that you beta for her. Do you beta for many other writers?
Yes, I have a handful that I am faithful with, and they reach out to me, and I'm always down to help them. But then there are people who I will see on Discord in a couple of the different servers that have reached out, and they're like, I need a beta. Can somebody help me out? And just the other day, I offered to help somebody who writes Teen Wolf. And I'm like, I'm down. Yep, I'm down for that. I can help you out. So cool. if there's somebody out there and I see that they need a beta, then I'll reach out to them and I'll be like, yep, I can help you out. Not a problem. When do you need to buy? Just so that I can fit it into my life, that, what's going on with my
everything
life.
else that you're doing.
Yeah, when do you find the time, girl? Seriously.
Oh my gosh. That's amazing.
But actually, we have a listener question. It does always seem to be Dreamer that gives us listener questions. Listeners, why don't you ask us questions? But we threw it out to our Discord that if anybody had any questions for you, unfortunately, I threw it out at a time that was not convenient to most US-based people, so that one's on me, sorry. But Dreamer got in touch, and she wants to know, who else do you beta for? So tying into that, you want to name any names? It's okay if you don't, though.
Amy Pond, 45. Okay. Time Has a Way, Sin City, Mojo. Those are the people that I have been faithful with for betaing when they reach out to me. And then, there are others. Like I said, if I see somebody in a Discord or if they're popping up in LJ and I see them, I'll be like, okay, yeah, I'm down for it. What do you need? When do you need it by? Forward it to me and I'll do my best with you. Just tell me what you're looking for. And we go from there. Dreamer, obviously. Yeah, Dreamer.
Yeah, sorry. We heard that you're in it for the long haul.
She was very complimentary, and she was like, we basically have an agreement where she was like, I will beta everything that you write like forever now. Like that's it. We're ride or die beta. And it's funny actually to be talking to you because she's my ride or die beta. And I wouldn't ask anyone else to beta my stuff. So that's so cool.
So there is a handful that I am always going to be there for no matter what. It's like, okay, yep, you need me. You don't even bother texting me or DMing me. Just drop it in my email or, link me into it and I'm there. So
what do you love most about the process of being a beta? And
I'm going to need you to stop saying that word. And
what are some challenges?
I think the challenges are when you're working with somebody who their language is not English.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
When they're so if they're from a different country,
first language, right?
Yeah, it's not their first language. Thank you. That's the word I was looking for. That can be a challenge because sometimes they're referencing something that isn't always, not to say accurate, but they don't always grasp the concept of the English language. And it's a very difficult language to grasp.
Yeah.
I know people who don't have a second language that can't grasp English, but
absolutely.
That's beside the point. And you try to correct them in a way that I don't want it coming across as I'm being condescending. It's just, you're using this word or you're using this phrase, and I don't think you understand what it actually means. And I will tell them this is what it means versus how you're using it. So it's always up to them whether or not they want to change it. And I always tell them whenever I'm betaing for somebody, when I make a suggestion, it's my suggestion. It doesn't mean that you have to adhere to it. I'm just throwing it out there so that you can have that consideration. It's just so that, I'm trying to help you not make the story better, but make it more concise so that the flow is there. Because they're starting off with a good concept,
right?
And I just don't want it to ever seem like, okay, man, she's really criticizing. She's putting my writing down, and that's never ever my intention. And that's why sometimes I worry about how somebody perceives my suggestions, because it's not like you have to do what I'm telling you. I'm just making a suggestion, and I don't ever want anybody to think that I'm criticizing them.
Right.
The part I love as far as proofreading for somebody is to see what they've written. And then just because it always amazes me what somebody puts down on paper for an idea. And I was betaing the proofreading for somebody today, the Teen Wolf story. And I was just like, oh my God, I'm in tears. I was like legit in tears because something that she wrote just like really touched me. And I was like, I can just imagine it happening, and I can see the look on that person's face and the heartache that they're going through. And I'm just like, hand me a tissue. Oh my God, how can I go on? But just to see somebody, just to be part of that creative process, it's awesome to be there, even though you're not writing it, but you're helping that person along. And it's just kind of like, this is the best thing in the world, that you can collaborate with somebody and just say, hey, okay, comma's misplaced over here, but oh my God, I love this line over here. I can't believe that he said that. And that's just an awesome line that you typed out, and it's so in character with that person, and I love it. So that's where the joy comes from. And that's why I do it, because you get to somebody and you get to help them out and just help them grow as well. I mean, I've had people who have baited for me and they've made a suggestion, and I'm like, I never even considered that. Thank you so much. And you grow from that experience.
Absolutely. I would 100% say my knowledge of where commas should go is greatly improved since I started working with Dreamer. Now I am the first to admit, I don't always put them in the right places, and sometimes I forget, but she's like, you're so much better now. And I'm like, it's because I'm learning. I'm getting it. I still don't understand why it's like this, but I know I don't understand the why, but I know it goes there.
Yeah.
I know. And you know what? Sometimes I have to rein people in with their commas. It's like, okay, every 2 words is a comma. And it's like, no, that's not how we write. That's not really how we speak. But also everybody has their own different style of writing too. So you kind of just have to go with the flow. And I have had times where it's like, I have put a comma in the wrong place, or I haven't put a comma in at all. And it's just kind of like, oh, you dummy. What, and when I get it back and I'm like, oh, the mistakes are all commas, you know?
Yeah.
I doing?
A lot of my suggestions from Dreamer are commas. I would say a good 60% of them are commas. And then she's so sweet. And she'd be like, you're getting so much better though. And I'm like, I'm not, because I don't understand. I just put them where I think they should go. And I know there's some places they should definitely go. And I don't know. They're just confusing. I don't like commas. They are a very confusing form of punctuation.
Commas can be difficult. And the rule, just between you and I, the rule that I have always gone by, and this was taught to me in school, in journalism, is that when you put a comma there, take a beat for 5 seconds. And if it seems like it's an awfully long time to wait between where you put that comma and reading the next word, that comma is not needed. Because it interrupts the flow of what you're trying to write. So that's kind of where I come from when I write. And then like I said, sometimes my beta will come back and she's like, comma should have been here, comma should have been there. And I'm like, oh, I struggle with that sometimes. And I'm just kind of like, so then I have to reread it over and over and over again. And I'm like, do I agree? Do I not agree? Do I agree? Do I not agree? And sometimes it's a 50-50. And then sometimes I'm like, yeah, you're right. There should have been a comma there. Or yeah, you're right. You know what? I put a comma where it doesn't really need to be. So sometimes the commas are tricky. I hate them.
Yeah. I don't like them because I'm just like, if they're like hard and fast rules, I think I'd feel better about it. But it's just like, it's real ambiguous, as you say, and it's all to do with the flow and where do you want the reader to pause and where is it necessary? And I'm just like, I don't understand this. I need like, I understand full stops and capital letters. That makes sense to me. Commas are nonsense. Do not even get me started on colons and semicolons. That's not it. No.
Yeah.
I know. Punctuation, it's difficult.
So Jen, do you have conversations when somebody approaches you or you see somebody wants or is in need of a beta? Do you have a conversation with them? Like if say somebody's never done it before, like what do you want from me as a beta, or what are you looking for? Because some people are pretty much good with just spelling, puncture, grammar. Some people want development. Some people want, to really have you get in. And I know us all being very fragile individuals as writers, you kind of have to really be careful, and take your time and really figure out what do they need. Because it sounds like you really don't want to overstep, but you still want to make something better. So do you have conversations with people in advance?
I do, especially if there's somebody new that I'm working with that is not familiar with how I beta. I want to be upfront with them and I want to know what they're expecting from me. Some people are like, no, I only want you to do for flow and punctuation and grammar. Okay, I can do that. Some people are like, really give me suggestions. Tell me how you feel about something. Redirect me. And there are people that I work with. There's somebody that I work with. It's I will make suggestions. I would write it this way. I don't cross anything off, but I'll put there in the suggestion area. This is how I would word it, and then just give that suggestion. Years ago, when I first started writing the fan fiction, I had somebody who I told them what I needed from them, and thankfully I kept a copy. But she completely ripped it apart and she rewrote my entire story, and I'm like, but that's not what I asked you to do.
Wow.
And I was working with somebody just recently, somebody that I've worked with off and on as a beta. And she came to me and she was like, can you really help me? And I said, sure, send me what you have. And I thought she was writing the story with somebody else. And what she sent me was a copy of a story that somebody had already baited for her. And they took it upon themselves to start rewriting that. And to me, that's so heartbreaking. It's like somebody has already put their heart and their soul into what they created, and you have just taken it upon yourself to rewrite it. Okay, so it's not the way you would write it,
Right.
but that's your style. And how dare you put your stamp on somebody else's work?
Yeah.
That's not cool to me.
Yeah.
So that's why I always am very careful with somebody. And like I said, I always tell them, okay, so you told me that you're only looking for this, this, and this, but off in the side, you're going to see my comments that this may work differently for you. And again, you may not take my suggestions, and you know what? I will not be upset. I will not be offended. I will not be hurt. There's somebody that I work with periodically for Teen Wolf, and we have fought back and forth about the use of the word bathroom versus restroom.
Oh, it's funny.
And when to use it and how to use it.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, you know what? And we had a whole dialogue with it in the Google Docs. And I said, ultimately, you know what? This is your story, and I respect that.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just giving you my suggestion, and it's strictly my suggestion, and you do not have to go with it. I said, and if you don't want to use my suggestion, I said, that's absolutely fine. And the end of the day, I said, it's your story, and I will still continue to debate it for you.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't matter to me,
Yeah.
it really doesn't matter to me.
I think that's probably so important not to take it personal, that it's, if somebody rejects a suggestion, it's not a rejection of you. They're just like, I just don't think this comment needs to be here.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, when I just finished betaing for somebody else for another bang, for a J2 bang, and I could see where
do you find the time? Fucking hell. Do you have more hours in the day than the rest of us?
Well, I guess maybe, I don't know. I only sleep a couple hours a night. So
oh goodness.
You must do. God, you must be Dean. You must be like, I need my 4 hours every like 2 to 3 days.
I'm going to say pretty much.
Wow.
God. But like, I got the email response where, okay, this was accepted, this was rejected. And I'm just like, I quickly glanced through it, and I'm just like, okay. And then I just delete it, because you know what? Again, it's their story, what they do with it after I've gone through it,
right,
and made my suggestions and or corrections. It's not set in stone. They don't have to take what I'm saying to heart. They don't have to do what I have suggested. So
you're providing a roadmap, right? And you're just amplifying.
Exactly.
You're amplifying their voice, trying to find a way to like really make them stand out. I think that's so important. I'm kind of amazed that there are people, or there have been situations where somebody's just completely tried to rewrite someone's work. That's really
disgusting.
Yeah. And I always wonder, like, what's the expectation, and like, really, how clear is it, that this is what it's like, especially for somebody who's never gone through the process before? Because as I've dealt with editors before, so I've had that, experience of kind of like working through it and seeing what that's like, but I've never really, to have somebody just kind of like pick it apart. It's gotta be heartbreaking for some people.
It was when it happened to me, it was very heartbreaking, because I was really happy with the story that I created, and I'm still happy with the story I created, because I took some of their suggestions and I went with it, but I was to see everything, like the person used red and crossed things out in red and rewrote it, and I was just like, when they sent it back to me, I was like, this isn't even my story,
Yeah.
So, and I always keep that in the back of my mind when I'm proofreading for somebody, because I remember that feeling of heartbreak when that story was returned to me and I saw what that person did.
Yeah.
And I try to put myself in the person I'm proofreading for's shoes. How would I feel if somebody ripped my story apart? And that's not what we're here for when you're proofreading for somebody.
Yeah.
You're not there to rip it apart. You're there to help them make something even better than what they've already created. And I don't mean to say that their writing isn't better. It's just, okay, sometimes the spelling is wrong or something is off a little bit. You're just there to help them, what they've created, take it just to that next level.
Right.
Right. Yeah. And I think there's a lot of people out there like me who go, it's finished when I hate it. So by the time you get to that stage, by the time it's ready to send to a beta, you've looked at it so much that honestly, you really never want to see it again. And you hate the art. So I think it's, that the relationship between the beta and the writer who can come in and go, this is beautiful. What you've done is incredible. And if you just tweak this a little bit and just move that here, it's going to be so great. And I need that because I do. Like Dreamer beta, we don't have like a traditional writer beta. Like she's in my Google Docs all the time because I'm like, I did a thing, come look at my thing. So we're like always bouncing ideas off. But by the time it goes to her, by the time I throw my hands up and gone, I'm fucking done with this. I detest it usually. And then she comes in and she does like a proper like spag beta through. And then I'm like, oh my God, it's so much better now. Oh my God, it's just so good. But we have the phrase that we use is I'm married to it or I'm not. So she'll come in and she'll be like, if you just move this a little bit, and I'll go, yeah, cool, talk to me about it. I'm not married to that. Or she'll highlight something else and I'll go, no, I'm married to that. We're not moving that. We're having an argument is not the right word. We had a debate about an apostrophe that went on for quite some time because she was like, but it's not right. And I'm like, yeah, it is. It's a contraction. It's a shortening of a name. And she's like, yeah, but you don't use it like that. And I'm like, yeah, but it's numbers. And you do use it like that when it's numbers. And she's like, but it's words and numbers. So it's different. And I was like, I'll change the fucking username then. And she's like, that's not going to help you. It's still not going to be right. And in the end, I was like, look, I'm married to it and it's a stylistic choice. Can we move on now?
There you go. Yeah. I mean, like I said, and ultimately it's your story and it's what you put out there. And for me, I don't allow anybody to see what I'm writing until I'm completely done. But then again, I have people that I beta for that, okay, I'm adding you and can you take a look at this? And can you suggest something? And can you help me here? And that's fine with me too. I will work with that person until the very end. And that's what they need. They want somebody to hold their hand because they're scared sometimes, especially if it's their very first ban. And it's scary to put something out there. You're putting yourself out there. And then people can make comments and some people can be very cruel with comments. Unnecessarily so. If you don't like their story,
move on.
You don't need to make a comment. I mean, I had a comment recently where I was very upset with the comment and I did not respond to the person. I ended up deleting their comment. And I took it to heart. And I had a sequel planned to the story. And I was so upset that I have, for now, scrapped any kind of addition to it because I was just very, very upset with the commenting that was given to me. It was basically a rant. And it was like, well, you know what? If this is the rant that I'm going to get over, it was a meet cute story between the Jays. And the comment was just, I showed it to a couple of people and they were like, what the ever loving fuck? And I'm just like, yeah, I said, am I overreacting? And they were like, absolutely not. Cause I mean, like, I was really, really upset. It takes a lot to get me upset because everybody has their opinion and they're always entitled to their opinion.
But sometimes not every opinion has to be stated. Like you said, sometimes it's just like keep the opinion to yourself and move on.
Exactly.
And we're just not in a society that really, I think, adheres to that much anymore. So,
no. I mean, and there's a story that I wrote for a big bang a couple of years ago, probably 2 years ago, I think it was, where in the story, again, it was J2, Alpha and Omega, and Jensen gets attacked. Jensen's the Omega and he gets attacked. And he's pretty much left for dead. And the comments I got on that, and I can see where they're coming from. And I, always respond back. I do my best to respond back to everybody's comments. That, your feelings are validated, but also remember that this is a work of fiction. This did not actually happen to them in real. This didn't happen in real life to them. And there are times where, sometimes life mimics art and art mimics life. Where people have been, attacked and left for dead. But that's not what that story was about.
Yeah.
It was
man.
It was just an aspect of the story that what happened to the Jays and why did this happen and why were they estranged and, why does Jensen feel this way? And why is Jared, longing for something? That's where it led up to. That's what the result was. And some people fixated on that part. And I get it. It could be very traumatic. It could be triggering for somebody. But like I said to him in every comment, your feelings are valid, but also just keep in mind that this is a work of fiction.
Right.
So that's what I try to tell everybody. Like, you are validated in my eyes. But it doesn't necessarily mean that I'm going to go back and rewrite something because of your comment. And actually a couple of people have asked me, at some point, do you ever think that you'll do sequel to it where Jensen, confronts the people that attacked him? And I'm just like, in the story, I'm very happy with the story where it is. Jensen was all about forgiving and moving on, and some people can't do that in real life. And, that's real life for them. You can't always forgive and forget and move on.
Yeah.
But in this story, that's what Jensen did so that he could find his happily ever after. So
interesting. I'm curious then, like with a story like that, and I don't know if it was a live journal or AO3 or posted on both, but were there tags like noting that stuff like this was going to be in there and then people were still surprised that it happened?
I'm pretty sure that I did tag it. I forget sometimes. And there are times when I forget to tag something and somebody will come back and say, hey, can you tag this? Hey, can you tag that? And the one that makes me laugh, because 9 times out of 10, if you read anything that I have written, you'll pretty much guaranteed to know that, my preferences, and I got raked over the coals by somebody who was like, I read this story and I was really excited until the fact that you didn't bother to tag that it was Bottom Jensen. And I had to giggle because I'm like, where have you been?
Oh my God. And also, are your fingers broken? Like, the back button is right there, friend. If you get to that point, like, if you get to all of the lead up through that, and then the dick goes in like, this penis goes in this ass, and you're like, an outrage. I must leave a comment immediately. Friend, touch grass.
Yeah.
You can leave at that point. Like, if you can leave at any point. You're not mandated to finish a fic. Just fuck off.
Very interesting. I think we had a conversation with Dreamer about this too, that people are certain situations, people are very adamant about that. And they will let you know, even if they know it's coming. They're still going to say something about it. So very interesting. Wow.
Yeah.
Goodness. No, I did get that. And I've only read a handful of your stuff. I kind of got that right away. I was like, I got this. I think I know where this is going. My experience with you in a Big Bang was I saw that you had kind of like helped to mod the Dean Winchester Big Bang that happened last year. So I didn't know if you help moderate or create a lot of those things, or is that kind of like just something that you happened into? Do you also help with a lot of events as well?
That was really the only one the only other one that I have become the mod for, and we actually decided to take a year off. I was modding the Spring Fling.
Okay.
That happens on Live Journal for like J2 and SPN. We actually took over, a couple of us took over the Dean Winchester Big Bang. This is my second. I think this will be my 3rd year.
Okay.
As one of the mods for that.
Okay. I will say that was my first ever Big Bang experience. And I felt like you guys were there to answer questions. Things were sent out when they were supposed to, if we didn't know what was going on, somebody was available. And I specifically, like, my very first Big Bang, and it was like the artist had like dropped out. Like it was just like, it wasn't happening. So I had my like pinch hitter, and I was just like, oh God, it's a very anxiety ridden process, because if you kind of like, okay, I'm putting this out there, because see if somebody claims it. And then, you're really like teaming up, collaborating on the final result. So to to know that you guys had that in place and there was somebody else to kind of willingly come in and take over it turned it into a very nice, it ended up working out very well. So I guess
I'm glad that you had a good experience.
Yeah. All that to say, thank you for making sure that I wasn't like, oh my God, like crying. Cause I think I was crying. And I might've not, Kasey, I don't remember if I even told you, but I was just like, I don't know what happened to my artist. I'm going to see what happens. And they were, the person that came in twin one was just great. Like got the stuff figured out in like over a weekend and stuff like that. Cause it was very like down to the wire and stuff like that. So no, I just wanted to say like, cause I don't think I had a chance to actually tell you how much, it was appreciated that you guys were behind the scenes, making sure everything happened the way that it needed to. So appreciate
that's
that.
good.
Yeah.
What story was yours?
It was Scratch That Itch. It was the one about Puppy Dean.
Oh my God. I was actually going to be your artist.
Okay.
As a pitch hitter.
Okay.
I had started working on art for you, and then somebody else stepped in and said that they were willing to work with you. So you actually did have two.
Oh, nice.
But
That's
I let that person take over.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, and I'm glad that happened. We always want to make sure that everybody, gets what they need, gets the art, gets the story.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm glad that happened and it worked out well for you. And I remember that story. It was a cute story.
Oh, yeah, thank you. No,
Look at that. What a small world it is.
Yeah.
Look at that. That's adorable.
Yeah, and we all, the mods, there's a couple of us, and we all will take a handful of stories and read through the stories as well to make sure that what the person says that they actually have.
It's actually that. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And we, sometimes we've had to reject a story because they're not, it's like, I don't have the minimum words.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really hard to do that.
Mm-hmm.
It's not something that any of us enjoy, but there were a couple that, we had to say to them, unfortunately, you don't have the minimum word qualifications for it.
Mm-hmm.
And then there were a couple there was one person we couldn't even get into the story. And we reached out to that person a couple of times to try and get access to the story. And they didn't respond to us. So then we have to reject that story because we can't read it. And it's just, we hate doing stuff like that. It's really difficult.
That's what makes it is hard, right? Like I could imagine that there's, you've really got to, it's a great project, but in order to get stuff to actually come together, you kind of have to be like, okay, we need this, this, and this, like the claims process and, making sure. And that's the thing too. Like I know that because Kasey, Dreamer, and I are going to be doing the Wincest.
So is Jen.
Wincest. Oh yeah. Yeah. Wincest Big Bangs. We're going to be doing that. And this is the first time it's for me, at least anyway, it's going to be like, I'm trying to get to at least like the 10,000 word count, but I know that there's going to be outlines and different things like that have to happen, at a certain time. So I'm looking forward to trying it again. I think the Dean Winchester one was much smaller than what this is another question that I've kind of noticed. And from some research we've done that the bangs, at least in terms of people being a part of the process and like writers and artists, seems like it's dwindling just because I think it had its like really big heyday. But have you noticed that too, that some of them are kind of like getting smaller in terms of like, okay. Yeah.
Yeah. I have, and it's sad because we have such talented people in our community. And for whatever reason, they've either turned to a different fandom, that's still not to use the same word like alive because, this fandom is still alive. But it's out there. It's seen more now because, Supernatural is technically off the air.
Yeah.
It's still there and, the reruns and everything. But it's not coming to us in our homes every week. So, people have moved on and, I see some of the same people that I saw in Supernatural in other, fandoms now. And it's like, no, come back. No, come back. Don't leave.
Have you seen people kind of leave and come back because you've been with it for a while? Yeah.
Yeah. So there's an ebb and flow to it.
Mm-hmm.
And I sometimes think that there's a lot more writers than there are artists for whatever reason.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's kind of been across the board all the way through since starting, because I remember it was kind of like, okay, we've only got 10 artists, people. We really need more because we have about 30 people who have signed up as writers, and trying to find somebody to do art. It can be difficult. And the people that do create art, thank you so much. Because it just adds that next layer to the story that somebody has written. Just somebody's artwork accompany your story.
Oh, it's like over the moon when you get to see somebody create something from what you've written. I think that's kind of like what now I'm like addicted to the idea of wanting to do it again, and I think for me it was just like, well, I think there'll be a lot of artists in the Wincest one, so let's give that a try.
I take full responsibility for that.
Yeah, that is all a Kasey thing. Yeah, so
and I'm doing that thing. I'm doing that bang. So.
But you're writing. Are you writing? Or are you doing? Yes. Can you do both?
No.
You can do both.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Oh,
some don't. Some don't have that though. Like some will let you only do one or the other. Is that true? Because every bang's a little bit different in terms of
every bang is a little bit different. But in some of the bangs you can do both, because I think even in the Winchester Big Bang we allow you to do both.
Okay.
You can be an artist. You can be an artist.
Yes, that is true, because I believe Twin One was also writing something at the same time. I was like, really? You're doing both?
Wow. You just can't claim your own. And I know, I believe the Supernatural / J2 Big Bang is the same way. The mod allows you to do both. You just can't claim your own story to create art. I mean, then again, what's the fun in that?
Yeah, of course.
At least
because I would think at that point you would have done it. Yeah, you would have been able to do it. You wouldn't have to like submit it into a bang. You just would have done it yourself and like posted it and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. And it is, you're right. It is nerve-wracking because I just submitted my story, and I'm just kind of like, in every bang that I do, it's like, oh, somebody going to claim me. Somebody going to claim me. Oh, please claim me. Please claim me. Please claim me. And you sit there and you white knuckle through the whole thing. And it's like, oh my God, I got claimed. Thank God.
I'm very nervous. The Wincest Big Bang is my first. I'm very nervous.
Yeah. Do you have any words of advice for a first timer in a Big Bang?
I think just have fun with it. Don't let it intimidate you, because ultimately that's what it's supposed to be about. It's supposed to be about having fun. And yes, it can be intimidating, and you worry about it. Am I going to meet the deadlines? Am I going to make the word count? Am I going to get claimed? Is somebody going to think that my story or my art is interesting enough that they're going to want to create for it? And it just take a breath, just have fun with it. And that's just keep that in the back of your mind. That's what this is all supposed to be about, is just having fun. And then I think that kind of takes the pressure off of you, because that's what I do. When I'm writing my stories, I'm like, okay, I'm not specifically writing it for any specific person. I'm writing it because I want to write it. And then I just pray that somebody else likes it in the long run.
There usually is somebody. Yeah, there's going to be somebody out there. There might not be as many as you think, but there's usually somebody out there that really does get it. Yeah. Well, that's good advice.
But that would be my suggestion, and have fun with it, and just go with the flow, and don't stress out too much about it, because that's not what they're supposed to be about at all.
Yeah, I have a feeling we're still going to be stressing, because I think one of the things is happening this week.
Yeah, it is. The second check-in is on the 1st, and I'm like, I don't get anything done if I don't stress about it. I'm a horrific procrastinator. I am deadline orientated.
We put ourselves.
But it turns out also not deadline orientated. Deadlines are very stressful.
Yeah,
I don't know.
They are. They are true. When I think about even signing up for one, I do my best to come up with the story first. Like, the story idea. Do I have a story? Do I have some words down on paper? And then if I'm comfortable with what I have, that's when I sign up for it. So
Oh, see, that's probably a good idea. I didn't do that.
Well, I think too, like
as
you're writing, even if you start to like even if you don't outline or plot, right, you sort of get a sense of the beat, the rhythm, the pacing of it. You could kind of like in your head, you can think, this is probably going to turn into, as long as I don't go overboard, this could probably turn into a 5,000 word story. This might be a 10,000 word story. Like, so,
right.
For me, I think it's more about getting to that word count for the bangs. Cause usually I can just keep writing, but for some reason, when there's an actual, like, no, you've got to meet the certain count. I'm like, okay, I got to make sure if I'm going the way that I think it's going, is that going to meet, what I need to do?
Gratuitous hand jobs.
I know. Well, that's okay. But that's probably going to not be a problem in this one. So we'll definitely be able to add that in there. But I was doing, I was dealing with Puppy Dean. So.
Oh yeah, no, right. I thought you were talking about your story for the Wincest thing, but I was like, dude, you could totally throw a hand job scene in that. Not in Puppy Dean, no. Yeah. Well, I mean,
no.
No.
I did something in it, but that was not what that was. So we're gonna move on. Yes, there was a Dean got bathed.
Help. I've got off the reservation, and my Dean in my head is being like, I would totally see what it feels like to jerk off as a puppy. So moving on very swiftly. He gets no more voice. This is why he doesn't get a fucking voice, because he says shit like that.
That's why. That's absolutely it. So I guess
will not be writing that, by the way. Any listeners out there, please I will not.
Please don't. So I wanted to ask Jen. So your art, which I kind of would describe when I was looking through it as like aesthetic, sort of like photo manips, mood boards. Is that kind of accurate for a lot of like the digital art that you do?
It's beautiful though.
Yes. When did you first start creating that? When did you first start getting into that? I guess.
And which stolen hour of the day is reserved for artwork, Jen?
That's probably between 9 and 10 o'clock at night. I started getting into it because I noticed that there were a lot less artists out there. So for me, I wanted to kind of have art to go along with my stories.
Gotcha.
So it was kind of like, well, there's not a lot of artists out there, or I don't know a lot of artists that I could contact and say, hey, could you do this for me? Or would you be willing to do that? So I was like, well, I'll take a stab at it and see how it goes. And that's just kind of how it happened. It was more for myself. And then, it kind of started to be, well, all right, let me see. If I create this art with either Sam and Dean or Jensen and Jared, and I put together a prompt idea for it, would anybody really like it? And, a couple of people have really liked my art, which I'm very appreciative of. And then they have created such wonderful stories that go along with my art. And just to see the pairings come together, it's just like, oh my God, you really got that from like just my prompt and my art that I created. I'm just in awe of what people have created.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I totally agree. I think I first found your stuff. I was working, I was narrating I don't even know if I'm saying this correctly, the Coriolis effect by Fire Sign 10. When I completed the narration, usually we do I make some podcast art, and I just use Canva or whatever to do that. But your art inspired me to create, like the podcast art that had to go with the narration and stuff. So I was curious, was that your first reverse bang, or had you done others like that before? Because I've done
others.
Okay.
Yeah, I had done a couple others prior to that, I believe.
And how does that differ being on the art end of it as opposed to the writer's end when you're starting off? Is there really any difference, or is it kind of the same vibe? Oh, I'm worried somebody's not gonna pick my art, or how does that process go?
Same vibe.
Okay.
Yeah, it's the same vibe. You worry, it's like, okay, is somebody not gonna like my art? Are they not gonna like the prompt that goes with it? And I've had it where somebody has claimed my art and they've ended up not fulfilling for whatever reason, because, life is life and life commitments get in the way, and I've had to post my art without a story. And it sucks, but you know, it is what it is. And I understand it completely. I'm the first one who understands that, you know, they've reached out to me and they've had to drop out. And you know, sometimes I've been able to find somebody to write for it. But sometimes, you know, like I think I've had at least 2 now, possibly 2 bangs where I've posted the art and there has been no story to go with it. And it sucks, but it is what it is. And you just kind of move on from it. But it's another world where you're like, oh God, here we go again. Somebody's not going to like what I do. And that's always the fear when you put yourself out there, that somebody's not going to like you. Somebody's not going to like what you've created. You know, but you just kind of have to figure out, is it worth it? Yeah, it is. It's nerve-wracking, but at least you've tried. So that's what I do. I at least try. And I think my art keeps evolving. Some really like it. Some like, somebody may look at it and go, oh my God, what the hell is she doing? But you know, it is what it is.
What did you have you changed programs and software that you've kind of used over time, or like how's that sort of evolved?
I have kind of jumped around from a couple of different programs. And it's finding out kind of like what works best, because not everything works the way that I think it's going to work, because I may not be manipulating it properly. You know, so it's just another situation where there was a couple of weekends ago where I think I took 3 hours to work on something, and it was like, it should have been a lot easier than that, but it's not always that easy. Just like writing, okay, I'm going to put down 500 words, and all of a sudden you're like 3 hours later and you're staring and you only got like 3 words written on the page, and you're like, what the fuck? So, you know, and then trying to find some of the images that it's like, I thought I saw this image of Sam doing this, and like, okay, well, why didn't I save that image? Or maybe I've dreamt it. You know, and it's like, oh, it'd be really cool if I could find him doing this, because it would really work for what's in my mind. And you're like, son of a bitch, I can't find that image.
It's really hard. Sometimes it's like when you want to find something, you can't find it when it comes to like images and stuff like that. Yeah.
And I mean, like I said, I'm always in awe of everything that people create, because like I said, we have such talented people in the fandom, and it's just, I think that we're really blessed with what we have, with who offers their work out there for everybody.
Absolutely.
It's just an incredible situation that we have created in this community for ourselves.
Yeah. I was going to say, I think one of my last questions before I think we move on to a couple from Kasey is, socially, community wise, are you still really primarily on LiveJournal, or have you kind of like, do you use any other sort of social platforms to kind of like connect with people? Or it sounds like LiveJournal is still something like, if you're looking at prompts and things on there, that you still kind of go back to regularly?
I go back to LiveJournal once a day, and that's mainly to see like who's there. Because there are still a couple of people that are on there faithfully every day.
Wow.
And there is that one community that I am involved in where, you know, you record your words. And I think there might be one that every once in a while has, I think it's like called 1 million words. Okay. And they do something very similar, and then they'll have, they'll put bingos out there and word prompts. And, you know, sometimes I take part in that, but I'm primarily I'm on Discord in a couple of the servers there. I am on Tumblr, Twitter, and Insta, but it's just primarily like just here and there. I more lurk than anything else. Just to know me, you wouldn't think right now, but to know me, I'm actually kind of an introvert.
Hey, I proudly claim to be an introvert and a lurker, so I totally get it.
Yeah. So I'll go for weeks without being on. I mean, like, I'll look at Twitter, but I won't really put something out there. And most of the time, the only time I'm actually posting on Twitter or even Tumblr is when I'm posting a new story, and then I'm in and I'm out.
Yeah, that's kind of like how I think we've approached it too. Because Yeah.
I'm pretty active in Discord, but catch me anywhere else. And I'm like, maybe I'm here, maybe I'm not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anymore. I can honestly say it just sounds like you're very like you've got a lot of initiative and sounds like there's a lot of resilience too. Like, like I'm going to keep trying this thing, darn it, even if it takes me 3 hours and I'm going to learn to do the thing. So that's a great attitude, I think, to have when it comes to, especially when stuff keeps evolving and changing anyway, and you want to keep up, with stuff. It's taking the plunge and just giving something a try. Sometimes that's like the scariest part is just getting started. So
absolutely.
I think that's great. Kasey, your questions.
Yay, it's my turn. This is I just shoved it at the end because my questions are weird.
No, they're not.
So it's totally okay if you don't want to share. Like it's totally fine. We're not going to hold it against you or anything else. But where did you come up with your screen name or your username? Like I think I have a pretty good idea. I'm not going to lie. This one's not that big of a mystery, Jen. But yeah,
it's a combination. It's a combination of my initials and birth date.
Okay, gotcha.
Cool.
Gotcha.
That's how we all used to do it, wasn't it? That's great, though.
I know some people have like really cool names out there, and it's like, oh shit, why didn't I think of that? But again, when I was starting out, I was kind of like, there was no handbook.
Yeah.
Shit, I'm just gonna put myself out there.
Now, is there any reason why you're switched in terms of letters in one area?
Because when I was doing Live Journal, when I tried to create a username,
they have that thing, don't they? Where if it's already been taken. I think Dreamer was talking about this too. That she got she was waiting to get that username or whatever because it was taken by somebody. Oh, okay.
Yes.
Gotcha.
Yes.
Gotcha.
So
to get creative.
That's why it's yeah. So that's why it's a jumble on Live Journal.
Gotcha. Okay.
I see. That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. Yeah, we've all got those first screen names that we first made. But I suppose the thing is, once you've established like a name for yourself, then you're like, I can't rebrand because
exactly.
Everybody knows this now. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, speaking as someone who did just recently rebrand, I guess there was a whole lot of hi, I'm previously known as same person, new screen name. It's exhausting. So yeah, I get it. Okay, this is the last question. So this question is not anything to do with Supernatural or fandom. It is totally out of left field, but I don't think adults ask other adults this question enough, and I am on a one human mission to change that. So Jen, no, you probably have a better handle on this question than you think you do. But so, Jen, what is your favorite dinosaur? I love that silence. I love it so much because I can always picture the person's face like, fucking what? The fuck is wrong with you? Adults don't ask other adults what their favorite dinosaur is, and we should. I want to know.
Oh my God. That's a really, really good question.
See, I kind of, because you'd mentioned having kids, I was like, she probably knows this. But then as I was about to say it, I was like, she could have girls and not have a fucking clue.
Girls like dinosaurs too.
Yes. They do. Dinosaurs are gender neutral.
Yeah,
they are. But I am aware that I come from the perspective of having raised two boys. For the sake of argument, let's say boys. And both of my children had a dinosaur phase. So I am particularly au fait with dinosaurs. And also, I am a neurodivergent dinosaur weirdo anyway. So I also had a dinosaur phase. Like, I'm read up on dinosaurs, bitches. I know what's happening. So, yeah. It's okay if you don't know or you don't have an answer. You're like, I don't even like dinosaurs. Like, that's totally fine as well.
The Bronchosaurus.
Oh,
okay.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Yes, I've always thought that one was so sweet.
Mm-hmm.
Because of the Jurassic Park movie?
Yes.
It's a little puppy in that movie, though. Well, not a little puppy, a big puppy, but
no, I see. That was my favorite one before Jurassic Park because I feel like they're like gentle giants, right?
Yes.
So
yeah.
And honestly, if Sam Neill was telling me that it was friendly, he could get me to pet a tiger. If Sam Neill was sat next to me going, it's okay, It's a friend. Just put your hand out. I would lose an arm to a tiger. But I'm a simple person.
I've always said that the way I'm going to die is because I probably petted something that I shouldn't have.
Yes. Returning full circle to husbands who dread the words "I've had a thought." Has your husband also established that he is not going to save you in this instance?
Absolutely. He's like, freaking crazy woman. You know, I'm always sending him pictures of like tigers or some crazy kind of like a hippopotamus. I'm like, can I have it? And he's like, what is wrong with you?
If not friend, why friend shaped?
Exactly. I'm like, but look at it. It's so sweet looking. He's like, it would eat you.
Oh God.
And if that is my time to die, I willingly accept that. I'm fine with it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. No, I remember showing my husband a video of a polar bear that was kind of like investigating an Arctic research station. And it like put its head through the window. And I was like, oh my God, I would boop the snoot. And my husband was like, and you die. And I was like, you wouldn't come and save me? And he was like, nope, absolutely not. I would leave you there to deal with the consequences of your actions. And I'm like, well, I don't even know what this marriage is based on anymore. What the fuck? What do you mean you wouldn't save me? And he's like, I would not. If you do that, you're on your own, friend. And if that's my time, if that's how I'm destined to go out, that's fine. I'm all right.
I know. Like I sent my husband pictures or showed him pictures of the red pandas recently. I'm like, can I have one? And he's like, it would eat the cats. I'm like, no, it wouldn't.
No,
it would eat you. And I'm like, he's like, look at its claws. I'm like, but it's so adorable.
Right. Anything that stands up and T-poses, that's not an animal. That's an idiot. That's not. No. I want ducks, which I appreciate is very mild on the scale of things that I want. But I really want a duck. And my husband is like, what are you going to do with it? And I'm like, I don't know, pet it and stuff.
Exactly. I know.
Just have it follow me around and peep at things. Like, have you fucking seen them? They're fuzzballs. And he's like, we're not having a duck. We have cats. And I'm like, that's irrelevant. I would like a duck. I have been banned from ducks and goats. I definitely have mentioned a sheep at some point or another. But ducks and goats are my go-to. And he's like, we're not having either of those things. And I'm like, but why?
Yeah. And mine are always like the crazy things. Like, can I have a penguin? And he's like, where did this come from? I'm like, but look, and I'll show him a penguin. I'm like, but look, it's so freaking adorable. And he's like,
look at it.
Where would we keep it? And I'm like, in the bathtub.
Yeah, obviously. What else is it there for? Yeah. Look, they keep coming up with these stupid questions like, where are we going to keep it? Like a duck or a penguin? And I'm like, we have a bathtub.
You guys haven't thought about this. You guys have thought about this clearly. And there's so many reasons to have penguins.
I have given great thought to things like this. And I'm just like, but honey.
Like, why? I'm always just like, but have you seen ducklings chasing after their people and doing the little peeps and they go pop, 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 pop on the floor? Like, have you seen this? Do you have eyes? What is this? It's a baby. And like, I will admit that one of the reasons I haven't actually impulsively gone out and bought a duckling is because I'm fully aware that when they imprint on humans, they are exhausting and I ain't got time for that energy. I'm a cat person for a reason. But I want to play with one. Like, can we go somewhere where there are ducks? Just a duckling, please. Yeah.
Yeah. And he's always like, you begged for the cats that we have. And I'm like, I know, but can I have a penguin? And can I have this? And can I have that? And he's like, no. I'm like, but if you love me, you'll let me have it. And he's like, I love you. And that's why I'm not letting you have it because it would kill you.
That's not love. That's not love. Love is enabling all of my bullshit decisions, honey. That's what love is. Love is coming home and going, I found a duck. I had to find its mother, but I brought you one. You know, that's, I remember him walking away from me in a park because there was a goose and she had babies and I wasn't going to touch them. Like, I'm not insane. I wasn't going to touch them. I just wanted to take pictures. So it's kind of like tippy-toeing closer to this duck to take pictures of her babies. And she was getting real pissed off. Well, goose. She was getting real pissed off with me. And she was like hissing and kind of just like puffing up a little bit. And he was like, it's going to bite you. And I'm like, shut up. No, it isn't. And he like fully left. He just like took our children and left. Like walked off. And I like jogged back to catch up with him. And I'm like, look, I'm all in one piece. I just wanted pictures. And he was like, it was going to bite you. And I'm like, no, she wasn't. No, she was being a good mom. But I stayed away. Yeah, no, he has no time for none of my bullshit. but I want a duck.
That's my husband. He will legit walk away from me, and I'll be like, "But, honey, look at the wolf. It's so pretty." And he's like, "It will eat you."
And I'm like, yes, but have you considered doggo?
Mm-hmm.
Or foxes? Foxes! That, like, come on now. Nothing that makes that noise. That's not an animal. That's an idiot.
Okay. On that note, I'm going to try to steer us back because I have like a couple more questions, a couple more thoughts. This
is so funny because Sandra is the one going, no, you have not had a thought. So that's so funny for me and Jen to be like, and this, and Sandra just sat there like, you guys are fucking idiots. And I deal with this everywhere in my life. Stop it.
No, I'm just listening. But I'm looking at the time and it's been like, we've kept Jen a while. So I am trying to
that's fine.
hit a couple more things. But I just wanted to mention a couple of the fanfics that I kind of like pulled out just to read. They were on the shorter side, but I kind of just wanted to talk about them a little bit. First one that I found was Can't Be Healed. And it was like a Jen. It was Cass and Dean. It was written in 2018 for a prompt. And I just wanted to say that I really liked, I like it when there's more of like introspection on the characters and like small little bits like that. And just like the blackness within him, the beyond saving, that Cass knows about Dean. And I just really, Dean's obsession and purpose, how it always seems to comes back to Sam. I felt like you captured that in a very like short, succinct story. And I wanted to point that one out. The other one was, and this is where I kind of figured out a lot of where you tend to write, was You're Welcome to Watch, which was an explicit Wincest. And it was written for SPN Kink Bingo. And I guess your prompt was public sex. And I don't know why I have dams there, but it should be Sam's possessiveness. I was thinking about both.
My brain had, they say that you like,
it was like, damn.
Those things where those things where they can like bold out like the first few letters and your brain like fills in the rest of it. My brain had seen D and assumed that said Dean for this whole interview.
No.
I did not even read the rest of that word. It went D and I was like, Dean's possessiveness.
No, but it was Sam's possessiveness.
That makes so much more sense with Sam now because I have read that fic.
Yeah. Sam's possessiveness, dominance, right off the bat. Dean in a submissive role. And I was going to ask you explore reverse roles in any of the other stories, but I think we covered that a little bit more in previous.
No, for some reason that just, I don't see it that way. Yeah. And it's funny because everyone's like, well, some people will be like, well, he's the little brother. And I'm always like, but
have you seen him?
But that's part of the hotness. Exactly. That's part of what makes it so good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I'm like, he may be the little brother in terms of being 4 years younger than Dean. But there is no doubt in my mind that he would not manhandle Dean the way he fucking wanted to. So it worked for me, baby.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I really like the image too of Sam, like in the red leather chair. I just kind of felt like he just was like owning the club and everything. So I just like the way that was. Yeah.
Rowena vibes from there.
A little bit. Yeah. Kind of like when Marina's like on her throne and stuff. But yeah, I just got that like, I'm here. You guys get to see what I'm going to do with him, not the other way around, and how like,
exactly.
It happened earlier, like something had happened in the past. And yeah, Dean was very like, I don't want to upset him again. And yeah, there is something about, I think, the role reversal with them that I think is very, a lot of people like to explore, because if Dean's the one always giving the orders outside, of the bedroom or like whatever situation, like flipping that too. I think that takes a lot into consideration with Dean submitting and just being okay with letting somebody else take control. So I like that that exploration of that. I thought it was really great. I really like that one a lot.
Thank you.
And then the memory one, I think it was actually related to the 1 million words challenge that you were talking about. It was really short and they were just like little moments in time, but they were different. I guess like little, I don't know if they were cards or whatever you had to pull, but I like that there was a contrast from like when they were very little, like Sam's trust. But then, as it moved on, Dean's fear of being vulnerable still in a very sweet way. So I just think the comfort that they have with each other, I think is just, it's very sweet when that gets explored. And like, it's okay. You can be yourself. You could open up to me. These things are all right. We don't have to hide ourselves and our feelings from each other. And that I think we've talked a lot about how, our boys, our Winchesters need therapy and stuff. And I think that if they got the chance to really kind of sit down and talk things out, they'd be in so much of a better place. So yeah, there's just a couple.
Therapy,
yeah.
Winchester.
But I mean, I know you've got a ton, and I was looking at all of your digital art too, but I kind of really wanted to look into a couple more things and just kind of, because it does seem like you do a little bit of everything. I've seen you do some. Have you done like Sabriel and stuff like that too? Have you done like a San Gabriel?
Very beginning?
Okay.
Yeah, in the very beginning, where again they were all based off of other people's prompts.
Mm-hmm.
Where I kind of was just kind of finding myself because I was getting my feet wet, and it was just, okay, this prompt interested me, or it was just kind of like, all right, I'll try it and see how well it's received. So I have written different things. I think there's one where Gadriel possesses Sam.
I just read that today. It's fucking awesome.
So it's kind of like whatever caught my eye at the time. If it was interesting to me, I'll write it.
Yeah.
And I know, there's everybody has their own niche, and some people like certain characters and want certain characters together. And that's all well and good. Everybody's perspective is their own. And again, I respect everybody's opinion. And do with it as you will. Whatever makes you happy is what makes you happy. I don't want to shame anybody because, just because I don't like your ship,
right.
that's okay. You have your ship, I'll have mine. We don't have to meet in the middle, just have general respect for each other and move on.
Yeah.
So, I have written different things. But in the beginning, that's what I was doing, was if there was a prompt that kind of interested me,
right,
and I could figure something out to write for it, then yes, I wrote it, and it didn't matter who it was.
That's great though. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I wanted to ask before we wrap up, do you have any words of wisdom for people maybe having trouble writing, or maybe just getting back into writing? Just anything, maybe they're thinking about starting doing a big bang, but they're like, I don't know if I should. What could you tell somebody who's maybe having trouble in any of those areas, or thinking about doing something but might be hesitant to do that?
That's a good question. I think first and foremost, my words would always be have fun with it, because if you're not having fun with it, then what's the point? Why are you stressing yourself out over something that you're not enjoying? You have to find the enjoyment in it first and foremost. And if you can't enjoy what you're doing, then you shouldn't be doing it, in my opinion. You should always, what you're doing should make you happy. Your writing should make you happy. Your artwork should make you happy. Because it really, when you read something, you can tell. You can tell when somebody has loved what they have created. And that's what I would hope that anybody puts out there. They're putting out something that they absolutely love. Not everybody is going to ever like what you have written. Not everybody's going to like what you have created for artwork. But as long as you love it, that's all that matters.
Oh, that's good.
And I think that. I think we have forgotten that along the way. And I would really, really like for us as a community, whether it's in life or in fandom, to realize that, that it's about doing what you love. And that's why I do what I do with my writing. I love it so much.
Yeah.
And it makes me happy when I have created something. And I just finished writing something, and, I sent it to my beta, and she came back. She was like, I really, really enjoyed the story. And I said, yeah, I'm really happy that you enjoyed the story, because I loved writing it.
Good.
And her response to me was, you can tell.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Loved writing the story. She's like, what you created, she's like, from start to finish, you can tell that you absolutely loved it. And I'm like, I did. And I say that about everything I create, everything I've written. I love this one. And I loved that one when I created it 7 years ago. I love it even today. And what I wrote yesterday, I loved. And that's what I would want people to do, is love what you're doing, love what you're writing, love what you're creating for art. And don't worry about what other people may think about it. But do it for yourself first and foremost.
Yeah.
And if somebody loves it when you put it out there, when you post it, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's what you would hope for. But make sure that what you're doing is first and foremost for yourself. And then find that enjoyment in it. And then the rest will all fall into place, honestly.
Yeah. Well, that's great. No,
That's awesome. I love that.
I think it's quite apparent how much you love this fandom and the writing of supernatural fan fiction. And I'm glad that we got a chance to like sit down, chat with you, because I know you are a lurker. So I appreciate the time that you gave us today.
Thank you.
I hope you had fun. I hope you had fun.
I did have fun. Like I said, it was just, I am, like I said, to hear me right now, I'm not like, an extrovert. So actually to do this.
You did a great job.
You did so good. You did great.
I will say what I've learned is introverts, we kind of channel our energy into certain things that we really love and adore. So when you can get us talking about something that we really love and adore, you can't shut us up, especially when it's around a bunch of people that we feel comfortable around. And one of the things I kind of love, there's some things I don't like about the fandom, but some things I really love about the fandom, especially like, when you get a group of people that just love something and want to just talk about it and just go on about it. And there's a space for that. And when there's no, there's no infighting, there's no da-da-da-da-da. It's a nice space, right? Like it can be such a lovely space to just take some time, unplug from the world and be a part of. So I'm glad that we got to share some time with you. Hopefully we get to have you back maybe for something else. We're always like, if you ever want to come back and chat about something, let us know. Usually Kasey's like, well, we should just ask the people to come back and not even wait for like a certain topic. I'm like, I got it. So, but we also
enjoy it.
Good. I'm glad you did. Cause you did really good on the other podcast that I heard you on. So I was like, hey, you're getting a lot of experience now. You're going to be hip hopping all over the place in different podcasts. We will let you go, but if you're good with exiting out, otherwise I can kick you out. I won't report you to Zoom. You let me know what you're comfortable with. I always throw it out there just in case.
No, I'm good. I know. I do know how to leave in the Zoom.
Hey, I ask because sometimes people don't. So I'm like, I will do it. Just don't worry. I won't report you. So we've had situations like that. But no, Jennifer, thank you so much.
Thank you so much for joining us.
I've
had such a good time with you.
Yeah, and we hope to talk again soon. Okay.
Okay, sounds great.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye. Have a good afternoon.
You too.
I want to thank Jen. It was a really good discussion. A really good discussion about writing, processes.
You drew that out on purpose.
Betas, fandom, fan fiction, challenges, just the gamut.
She knows all of the things. I'm not unconvinced that the reason I'm tired most of the time is it because she's not out here just stealing hours from other people. How does she get all that shit done, my lord?
She's a time vampire. That's what it is. She's a time vampire.
we see you, Jen. You're out here just take an hour here and an hour there, and then can you take me off the rotation? I'm tired. That's incredible. No,
yeah,
honestly,
that was. I'm glad we got to have that chat. So thank you, Dreamer, for connecting. We appreciate that. We appreciate the connection that way. But yeah, let us know your thoughts about the episode and all of the things that we chatted about. So
if you're out there and Jen has made artwork for one of your fics, hit us up. Yeah. Let us know if you've made artwork for one of hers, because she's in a lot of bands, y'all.
She is.
She do a lot of things. Just like hit us up. Let's chat.
Yeah,
let us know.
And I mean, Jen's in our Discord too. So, she lurks, but she might answer a question or two in there as well. So just know you've got that as an option as well. So we're going to wrap up because it's been a very long day. We've done a lot of recording. Thank you for listening, and let us know what you thought of the episode. Email us at idlingintheimpala@gmail.com. Comment on Spotify in the Q&A section. Leave a YouTube comment. Join our Discord and chat with fellow idlers and us in real time. Check out our merch store, which is another fun way to show your support. You can find details for everything on our website, idlingintheimpala.com. Want to fuel our supernatural road trip? Consider joining us on Ko-fi for as little as $1 a month. We have perks to go along with different membership tiers and would love to have you along for the ride.
Absolutely. Don't forget, you can support us for free by liking, commenting, subscribing on YouTube, and following, rating, and sharing on audio platforms. Engagement like that really helps us with the algorithm. All hail their benevolence. As always, we have the causes that we support in the description. So you have LGBTQ plus talking charities from me, mental health charities from Sandra, and also US election information in there as well. Keep yourself informed and up to date as November closes in. Remember, it's a jump to the left, not a step to the right, people. And until such time as it is not necessary, we will continue championing, highlighting, spotlighting, supporting our main causes, which are World Central Kitchen and Doctors Without Borders. Both of these charities are on the ground working in the Ukraine to help those still affected by Russia's unlawful invasion of the Ukraine, and in Gaza, which is in the crossfire of the war between Israel and Hamas. This is not political. It does not matter which side of these issues you stand on. We are coming from a purely humanitarian view here. There are people in the Ukraine and Gaza that are trapped, cut off from basic human rights like food, water, and shelter, and they are dying. They didn't ask for war, and we want to help the people risking their lives to help them. If you cannot or do not want to donate financially, that is absolutely fine. Just sharing the links around social media helps massively to keep these issues in the public eye and get people in need all the help that we can. So with that, we will say thank you to Jen for joining us. Thank you for joining us in the back seat, and we will see you next time, guys. Bye-bye.
Bye.